And
sorry, good that.
don't buy that.
Right. No, we're going to leave it. Hello everybody, and welcome to the Hurdy Gurdy Cafe, an hour of interviews, music, and camaraderie. I'm Ryan, and I'll be your host along this crazy adventure through the land of the wheel fiddle. So strap in, and let's see what's cranking in the Hurdy Gurdy community today. Welcome everybody back to the Hurdy Gurdy Cafe, the Hurdy Gurdy podcast. I'm here once again with Sergio Gonzalez.
Hello.
Sergio. And our very special guest, Scott Gayman.
Howdy, everybody.
Yes, and this was set up a little while ago, and we've been really wanting to talk to Scott for a long time because he is considered to be the sage and the expert on hurdy-gurdies, at least as far as we're considering the United States. But Scott, you mentioned another person. What was that person's name that you thought was just as knowledgeable, if not more so?
I think that, like I said, he doesn't really have a Facebook presence. He's kind of under the radar here. But Curtis Barak has probably the largest and finest collection of hurdy-gurdies in the United States. He's got over 100 of them. Wow. And they're some of the finest examples of historical instruments that run from 1710 to 1950.
Wow.
So you guys are going to get together and make like a hurdy-gurdy museum somewhere near where you live, yeah?
That's actually the plan. The plan
Okay.
The plan is actually what Curtis has really been endeavoring to do pretty much his entire life, well, except as long as he's played the hurdy-gurdy, is to put together a hurdy-gurdy, not so much museum, but a location where you can come and play any number of his instruments to test, like, you know, what does a caron sound like? What does a lambert sound like? Or a louvet or a pampa, or, you know, just he wanted to put this together. He's wanted to put it together for a very long time. It's just, you know, money and space and everything else. So that actually, though, is the plan. Well,
excellent. We'll talk about that more and everything else that you have up in that head of yours around hurdy-gurdies in just a moment. But at the beginning of each podcast, we've been trying to start out with a tune. And so you've mentioned 3 tunes. And the first one we're going to listen to, correct me if I'm pronouncing this not right, but is it by Tarif de Nuit?
Tarif de Nuit, yeah. Tarif de Nuit.
And the track is called Famous Wolf, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's have a listen to that, and then we'll get back with Scott and Sergio and see what we can find out about hurdy-gurdies today.
Let's do it.
So that was Tarif de Nuit, and the track was Famous Wolf. And we're back again with Scott Gayman and Sergio, and we've got a lot to talk about. Sergio sent me a list of things. So Sergio, where should we start?
Yes, definitely. We were talking about the old masters. So it's worth mentioning this little village on the Auvergne region in Vichy, I think it is, which is Gensat, right, Scott?
Yeah, it's not in the Auvergne. It's in Berry Bourbonnais, but
It's okay.
next door to the Auvergne.
I was close.
You were close. You were very close. Yeah, it's Gensat.
I think it's a very small village. Like now, it's like 450 people living there. It's very small, but it was very, very important for the Hurdy Gurdy development, right?
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. So the Hurdy Gurdy, when they moved from Paris, I'm sure you've probably heard about the whole thing in France that happened where they killed a lot of people and, put a lot of people under the guillotine. All those things kind of happened over there. And if you were rich or you worked with really wealthy people, and especially the royals, the one place you did not want to be is Paris. You wanted to be any place that wasn't Paris. And so a lot of makers left. I mean, the region Merica is still producing instruments, but wasn't affected so much at least to my knowledge, wasn't affected so much by the revolutions in France. But it shifted the main region of hurdy-gurdy making from the Paris and Mirecourt region down to Gensat, and Gensat is where what we would consider the trad instruments today, that's where they really took hold and really became popular. They became the kind of regular, you'd consider a guitar today, that was the guitar version of what everybody would play there.
Mm-hmm. So is France then the actual origin of the hurdy-gurdy?
No, hurdy-gurdy is far, far older. What we believe, there's no, I keep telling everybody, I still haven't found anybody who has any receipts for their purchase of a hurdy-gurdy 1,000 years ago. So, we think that they came to Europe with the Moors through North Africa, came into Spain, and then from Spain they spread into the rest of Europe. It's normally in Europe, things often spread east to west because the trade roads came in on the east and they went west.
Right.
In this case, it appears that the hurdy-gurdy came in on the west side in Spain and worked its way across towards the east, so towards Hungary, towards Poland, and what is now Russia. But all of those regions seem to have representatives of hurdy-gurdies or tekaroos or other versions of that. Sometimes a couple hundred years after the same iconography appears in Spain. Mm-hmm. So the earliest, to my knowledge, that we found is the carvings on the Cathedral de Santiago de Compostela in Spain, mm-hmm. And from there, there's there's periods where you find stuff and periods when there's maybe 50 years when nothing shows up, but it's art, and who knows where it disappeared to, or maybe was never produced. So it came, we think, through the north of Africa into Spain and then spread east.
It's very interesting that. Okay, I did not know that, really. Nice. Okay, about the Gensat Gurdies again. You have also a pretty nice collection featuring some of the Gensat makers, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about the different makers and how they compare? Which ones do you like the most? Sure.
So the Gensat region has a really rich history. It's probably 1840s to 1970s, and actually They stopped in the 1960s, 70s. I can't remember exactly when the last maker passed away there, but in Vichy, afterwards, Jean-Claude Boudet was making instruments in Vichy. And when he was making instruments in Vichy, he got the opportunity to move to Genzat. And he moved to Genzat to start building hurdy-gurdies again in Genzat. So now, with this, very short interruption, there has not, is it a double negative? Never been a hurdy-gurdy maker not present in Genzat. I don't know how that works out.
Okay, wow. That's very cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's been a hurdy-gurdy presence, a hurdy-gurdy maker presence since the probably mid 1800s and still today. Now Jean-Claude Boudet, Jean-Claude Boudet is now, I think just last year he was 80 years old. He's gone into business with his son now. So now Claude Emmanuel makes, Boudet's there. And Jean-Claude is still part of the business, but most of the new instruments now are labeled Claude Emmanuel Boudet. So there is yet again another maker still residing in Genzat. So
it's so cool to keep up with the tradition, all those years. It's impressive, really.
It's very impressive. I think it's it's kind of like whiskey in the United States. Somebody's like, yeah, we've been making whiskey here since 1780, but we've never left the town. It's people love it and they keep doing it. So the first really big maker there, and the kind of historically large maker, and I couldn't tell you if there were makers before, but the first maker of Genzat instruments to really produce them was Pajot. And Pajot is kind of the great-great-grandfather of all of these makers. He's the guy that started making the hurdy-gurdy now in Genzat. Now, at the time, the Pajot house, the Maison de Pajot, made a lot of instruments. They didn't just make hurdy-gurdies. Mm-hmm. So if you were a luthier at the time, your range was everything that you had knowledge of and that would make you money. Mm-hmm. So hurdy-gurdies were one of the aspects, but it was the one that they became the most famous for. That house, that Pajot, the house of Pajot, branched out to Pajot Fils, which is the son of Pajot, Pajot Jeune, and Pajot Jeune. There may have been 2 or 3 makers. Pajot Fils, I think there's only 1 maker, but then the apprentices and the relatives of Pajot branched out. So then you've got the most famous and the most reputable maker as far as that goes. I think the early Pajots are very fine, but the one that everybody desires, they're all trying to find in Nigout.
Nigout.
Nigout, Nigout. Nigouts are they have kind of the purest sound from that region. It's if someone is going to say, what does this really sound like? So the people that know that region are going to say, find a Nigout.
Okay.
But that being said, Pajot made amazing instruments. Pajot Fils made amazing instruments. Pajot Jeune, I've got my favorite instrument in the world is a 1899 Pajot Jeune. It's just each maker kind of added their own thing to it, or maybe took something away, but each maker has their own style. I can recognize a Quai de Cante from about 30 feet away.
The inlays, right? Those characteristics.
Yeah.
Inlays. Yeah. It's very nice. I love that. Yeah.
It's all the inlays and the length and the body shape of them is
interesting.
Pajot, Quai de Cante also did this interesting thing where he put 2 notches in the bridge the trumpet, so you can move it. And I don't know if that's to do with responsiveness or intonation. If you're playing you have it tuned to a C or you have it tuned to a D. I've tried it in both places and it seems to work equally well. So
you can like pull it out and push it in. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
He will show it. They tend to have the notches. Oh, look at that! Look at that! Those inlays were the ones that I was talking about.
Yeah.
Those are really nice.
Yeah. So that's a Kaidekant.
Okay.
Look at that.
And I have one that's even fancier than this, but if you
Even
look,
fancier. Oh wow!
yeah, he did some really great stuff. So if you look right here at the bridge, I don't know if you can see it very well, but there are 2 slots in the bridge. So when you can actually pull the dog out, and there's I don't know, I can't see it here. Okay.
Yeah.
There's 2 slots in there, so you can put the dog in either one of those slots, and that's original. That's not something anybody added later. So that's a feature of Kaidekants. It's one of those things that you can recognize from. If you don't recognize the maker, you can look at that portion of it, and it will tell you right away it's Kaidekant.
And that's
it's missing it now, but it had a big mother of pearl placard in it that said it was made by Pajot.
okay. Wow. So that's very interesting. So to be sure that you are holding a decant, you have to look to the holes in the dog bridge. Okay.
Yeah. It's a good way to tell. And also, like I said, it's just the general shape of them. They tend to be a little longer and narrower. The string length is the same, but the body is just a bit different. So each body mold is a bit different for each maker. Makers made multiple body molds, but they all look the same. So my favorite instrument here, my Pajot Jaune.
Look at that.
This Pajot Jaune came to me unplayable. So I did the repairs on it, fixed it up, but it is a quarter-inch shorter on the string length quarter-inch longer on the string length than every other Pajot Jaune or Pajot that I've seen. It's a quarter-inch longer, but the body is smaller.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, so it has this amazing sound. Of course, Mr. Boudet looked at it and said, "Oh, that's a Nigu," just because he liked the sound. So he looked at it and said, "I like this. This is Nigu, and this is Nigu, and this is Nigu, and this is Nigu." But it's somebody stamped Pajot Jaune on the side, so I just call it my Pajot Jaune.
So how many of these do you bring to the Indiana workshop when you go?
I try to bring at least 2 because flight restrictions. I'm in California, and it's you gotta. There's no direct flight to Indiana from where I'm at.
Right.
So I've got to pay for the overage and all that. If I could, I'd pack a car full of them and drop them off, and then everybody could try every instrument I have. I routinely have local people here in Los Angeles that come by, and they sit down. And they'll play everything that I've got, in my house that hasn't been loaned out or isn't someplace else or whatever.
Lucky guys, really. I want to do that too.
maybe next year if it works, or the year after that, whenever this is possible, maybe Sergio and I can fly out to you, and then we can rent an RV, pack it all up with Hurdy Gurdies, and then drive to Indiana.
Let's do that. Come on.
That's a lot of work. That's a lot of work. It'd be easier to just drive to Indiana with a truck full of them, I think. But yeah.
Okay. So now we were talking about the US and the people that come by to your place to try Gurdies. But how do you think is the situation, the Gurdy situation in the States?
What's the scene like?
What's the scene like? I live in Los Angeles, or the Los Angeles area. are about 10 of us locally here.
It's quite a lot.
Yes, and a lot for the Los Angeles, for the United States. Most of the time, if you get 3, you're in great shape, especially here. But there's about 10 of us, and for a long time, it was my teacher, R.T. Taylor.
Oh, he says.
RT's that probably the reason that there are, is definitely the reason there are 10 Hurdy Gurdy players in Los Angeles. He's the guy that made everything work here. And then Curtis Barak, who we talked about earlier, and myself. It started out with just 3 of us for a very long time. And then we started getting more students interested. And now we've got some really, really phenomenal players here. On the Hurdy Gurdy community, I think you'll see, oh God, why am I totally blanking out? Don't put this in the video. or if you do, just hopefully she'll understand.
Is it Mary?
Mary, thank you. For some reason, my brain kept sticking on Susan, which is RT's girlfriend. So yes, Mary. So yeah, you'll on the Hurdy Gurdy community, you'll find some really phenomenal videos by Mary. And Mary hasn't been playing very long. I think she's got 2.5 years under her belt now, and she is really, really good. I mean, like one of those people that you just hand some sheet music to, and she plays it the first time through every time.
Oh,
she just put out a book and a CD or something, didn't she?
Yes.
Yeah. She's also a professional musician because she's a teacher and she's a musician in general. She's played violin and piano pretty much her whole life. So, when you play violin and piano, a Hurdy Gurdy is just kind of just a mashup of both of those things.
Exactly. Just like that, yeah. Okay.
So, and then we've got some other students that RT is teaching that are just more great, amazing players. Sarah is really great. Taryn is awesome. Eric is just this amazing player over here. There's just these really dedicated, really driven people, and luckily we have RT who really he really pushes us and really kind of makes us get together and play, and awesome. Makes everybody find time so that we can all play together. And even in the situation we're in now, where everybody has to be 6 feet apart, and sometimes it's hard to hear 6 feet apart. We still try to get together, once every 3 months or so, and just play. Normally, we try to get together once a month and have a big, 10 or 12 person get together with bagpipes and everything else.
So what do people in the U.S. what are they supposed to do if they live thousands of miles away from LA? Like you.
Yeah. So the problem with Zoom, as we all know, is as far as you're teaching, and I'm sure Sergio will attest to this, is latency.
Definitely, yes.
Yeah. Now, if we could just get Ansibles working, everything would be fine, and you would just communicate immediately. But that doesn't really happen. So, the people that are outside of Los Angeles, like I said, we are a very lucky group here. The best thing to do is, search the American Hurdy Gurdy group. See if there's somebody local. If you live, in the middle of Arizona, it's probably not likely there's going to be anybody local. But the best thing to do is to take classes with, Sergio. Looking at you, Sergio. Okay. Take classes with Sergio, and everybody else you can. Literally, if somebody offers and you've got the time and the money to take a class any place in the world, do it. There's definitely. I've taught students before. I still teach students, but I also spend a lot of time learning. I spend a lot of time going places to take classes with really great players, and every opportunity I can get, I do that.
Right.
Okay.
Before you get into that next little topic you got there, Sergio, I wanted to ask you about the Indiana workshop. But before we do that, I think we should listen to one of these other tracks that you sent for us, Scott. And one of them was called Indifference. And is that just tend-em or is it tendem?
Tendem.
Tendem. Okay. Well, let's take a moment to listen to Tendem's track called Indifference. Then we'll return with Scott and Sergio and continue the discussion.
Ainsi va la vie d'ici, la vie elle a des si bas. Elle débat et batterie les premiers pas dansés, Alban des écoliers. Balancés dans l'air sans avoir d'air, saoulés dans le temps. Aux folles nuits d'abus du soufflet qui s'est tiré, ruisselant sur le ton du blues. Et si c'était ça la vie, et si on nous l'avait pas dit, les piques époques aussi, va de l'avant, l'aventure est là. Allez, dis-le nous bandit, dans des mots doux, dis désirs ici, efficace étape à passer. Sur ton accordéon tu touches à toucher, coulé, facile, lâcher là du bout des doigts, docile au songe, assez tu médites tes fois, tes faces au firmament, une note cassée. Cassée pour ne plus jamais dans la c'est la musique infinie, mélodie qui lui effile la main, sont pas dédicacées, la balade à l'horizon. Ainsi va lui battre la vie ça va tu l'as dit. On parle aussi c'est là que t'as tout vu passer, le passé dépaysé. Vas-y l'enfant, tout petit déjà. Jadis on l'a dit, mais Nadja qui comme t'es sorti la place comme un cour. Et si c'était dommage, pas si c'est un hommage aux hommes assis devant, vus de l'avant, l'aventure est là. Allez, dis-le nous dans des mots doux, dis des ici, efficace étape à passer. Qui va faire éclater le banc des ateliers, balancé dans l'air sans avoir d'air, saoulé dans le temps. Aux folles nuits d'abus du soufflet, il s'est tiré, c'est bon, c'est le temps du blues. Et si c'était ça la vie, mais si on nous l'avait pas dit, les piques époques aussi, va de l'avant, l'aventure est là. Allez, dis-le nous dans des mots doux, des desserts ici, efficace est à passer.
So we're back, and we were just listening to a group called Tendem, and the track was called Indifference. And you were mentioning something while the track was playing there, Scott. Can you tell us a little bit about this track and this music?
Well, Indiférrence is actually an accordion tune. It's a very famous accordion tune. This one was, and I I don't know the name of the person that composed this one or rewrote it for Annelise and Laurence Pochemaille. But as far as I'm concerned, it is some of the purest hurdy-gurdy playing, that's out there. I mean, it's just really, really clear. They are dead on with each other the entire time they play. I see them, I've seen a video. I never saw them play it live, but I've seen the video of them playing it live, and they are just as accurate. This is not a trick. They are really, really good.
Like I told Sergio in one of the last podcasts, personally, my mind has been opened up to so many different hurdy-gurdy musicians that I really had no idea existed. So thanks for telling us about this. So we were talking about the hurdy-gurdy scene in the United States, and I was curious about the meetup in Indiana. So what can you tell us about that?
So the meetup in Indiana got started with Juan Wingard, I think G-A-R-D, and Tom Lozano. As well as Juan Carlos there with the early music group that he was with. And they wanted to do some classes to teach locals and get people interested in the hurdy-gurdy. So they got it started, I think it was about 7 or 8 years ago, I think. And they essentially just started out with a few students. It's in the kind of the middle of Indiana and in a what would otherwise be kind of a church retreat location. We are often terrible people there, only for saying a lot. But anyway, I snuck that one in. So anyway, but they got it started. They did a really great job getting it going. And then they just switched some teachers out. They got other teachers in. They rotated teachers in and out. So now it's Michael Opp who teaches beginners, who could probably actually teach some pretty advanced classes. Michael Opp is a really great player. And keep your eyes out for Michael Opp hurdy-gurdies in the future. He's very quiet about this, but
very good news. Very good news.
I'm doing pre-advertisement for you, Michael.
Yes. So. It's so good because we all know the luthier situation in the States is a bit like ha ha ha, but now keep an eye on Michael.
Yeah, exactly. And Mike is he's built several instruments now and done a bunch of repair, and he's just really I think Mike's going to be the guy to look forward to in the future here. And
can we have a good hurdy-gurdy builder in the United States?
Yes, Mike could be the premier hurdy-gurdy maker in the United States. And I'm like I said, he's not quite fully set up yet. He's working on it. And his wife Cami, they just had a daughter, so there's a little time involved here. But Cami also does restoration, and so they're both involved in it.
Nice.
So I'm hoping and waiting for great things from Michael. So anyhow, so Michael Opp is the beginning teacher today, beginner teacher, but he could do, like I said, much more advanced stuff. I'm the intermediate / kind of pseudo advanced teacher. And then Robert Green is the Baroque teacher. Robert Green he actually written a book. He's been teaching Baroque music and Baroque style for a really long time. He teaches in France, he teaches here. So the diversity of how you want to learn is available. The problem that always plagues every one of these anybody with these classes where they're long term is that there's a limited amount of teachers that you can get in the United States. And so if we want to get a teacher from outside the United States, then it's a problem with visas and a problem with, work visas and things like that. So, which is why I say, if somebody wants to take a class because they're teaching a class on Zoom, take the class. Yeah. It will be the best 30 euros you've ever spent, regardless. Just spend the money if you've got it and you can spend the time. But as far as Indiana goes, Indiana is really the base to get students. If they don't play, it's to get them to play. If they are working on learning how to play, it's to get them to over that plateau, get them to the next step. And for those people that play regularly, it's to get them to push themselves a little farther. So Indiana is really it's a week-long intensive thing. I mean, basically you show up and you work all day, and you do it for 5 days, but you work all day. We don't. Yeah, we don't. It's not like you play for 2 hours and then then you're kind of off on your own. You're playing for a good 6 hours a day. And then at night we have a jam session usually, and then we also have we have the instrument swap. So
that's awesome! Like trying everything from everyone.
Yes.
Everybody tries everything. So
exactly.
Yeah.
So we do that where we take everybody's instrument, set them on tables in a big room, and say, play. Pick up that one, pick up that one. So I try to bring a different instrument every year, so somebody can go, I really love this Raboyo, and I can say, sorry, you can't take it home, but
go find Jaime.
exactly. So it's just a way to get everybody their hands on a different instrument, to get it to get their own time on it, and we don't put a time limit on it. You can play it for an hour, you can play it for 3 minutes. It's to really kind of let people know, hey, there is a really diverse collection of instruments, but also a really diverse sound you can get.
Exactly. This is very interesting. Just for beginners also to develop the critical listening, which is very, very important on the Hurdy Gurdies, and to find out how an instrument from, for example, by Weichselbaumer and from Nigut, how they compare and how different they are and how awesome they are in their particular place, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
a pretty good sample of all kinds of different instruments then.
Yes. Yeah. You can sample a bunch, and it also gives you the ability to try out instruments that you might not find otherwise. I mean, Sierra has stopped making instruments. So if somebody were to show up and they have a Sierra, you can play it. And now hey, if one of these comes up, maybe I want to buy it. It's not new, but I like the sound. If a Kerbouf comes up, hey, Audren is still making. I can go, I can send him a message and I can get an instrument made. So, it's just it's just the opportunity for everybody to get, like Sergio said, Sergio, thank you. Serge. Sorry, I just have to do, every time I say Serge, I have to do it with that Ukrainian accent. So it's the ability for everybody to try it out and kind of get, like he said, a critical ear. Find the sound that fits you and buy that instrument.
Sure.
Excellent. What do you think? I mean, Hurdy Gurdy and Hurdy Gurdy music seems to be pretty popular in other parts of the world. I'm just kind of curious, do you expect that to become more predominant in the U.S. or in North America? Do you think it's going to spread this way and we'll have bands actually with Hurdy Gurdy players in it? Like bigger bands?
Yeah, bigger bands. Yeah. I think it already has.
Me too. I think the same.
Tell me about it.
So I started 16 years ago, which it seems like a long time for me, but if you look at other players who've been playing for 40 or 50 years, you're like, wow, I'm brand new to this. But 16 years ago, like, you know, Eluvaiti was a like super cool thing because they were a rock band with a hurdy-gurdy in them. And now you're like, oh yeah, Eluvaiti and Pan and, you know, and there's all Fawn and, you know, all these different bands, and they've all started incorporating hurdy-gurdies as part of their sounds.
But they're all over across the way, you know.
Yes.
They're across the ocean.
Exactly. But the thing that interests a lot of people, and you know, it kind of goes, it's like all music, it goes in and out and in and out and in and out. You know, the hurdy-gurdy started dying, and that's what happened to the Genzat makers. People just weren't buying them. And then there was a huge traditional music resurgence in France, and they all started becoming really popular again. Well, here in the US, I think what's happening is it's a slow movement, and everybody's going to be, you know, I knew about those guys before they were famous, you know, and everybody's going to have some hurdy-gurdy in their band, you know. But I think that the swing towards kind of a more traditional sound is kind of in and out here in the US. It's always been in and out. But I think the swing towards more traditional sound will start adding more hurdy-gurdies in. And then, of course, you're going to start getting a lot of bands here in the United States that are going to start working to emulate what I call pagan rock stuff, which is, you know, the put on, you know, huge costumes and have bagpipes with the bells on them that look like they're like huge.
Big, yeah.
They have a tiny little hole in the top, you know, with all the metal fittings and all the spikes and everything else. That's probably going to start coming around here, and that's when people are going to go hurdy-gurdy. We got to have a hurdy-gurdy, and I already see that happening. I mean, I already see more and more people in buying hurdy-gurdies in the United States, and strangely enough, this weird COVID situation where everybody is kind of locked up has given everybody freedom to pursue things like music. It doesn't seem like it. You seem like you're locked in your house and maybe you just want to play video games, but I have far more requests for people looking for hurdy-gurdies today than I did last year at this time.
Exactly. This also happened to me since the lockdown started. Like I have like 10 more students. It's like crazy. People are like really wanting to play. So it's awesome. So Scott, I see you have a pretty nice T-shirt there.
Yes. It's my Hurdy Gurdy Association T-shirts, but I have the other one as well that just says elitist hole on it.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about this story?
Yes, please.
Well, it's somewhat of an inside joke, but it's just because I like to tell the truth, and I like to.
We all do.
Yeah. And I like to get people. Move people away from making bad decisions and try to move them towards making better decisions. But sometimes, I mean, I totally understand. Like, there's a lot of people today that are like, I really want a hurdy-gurdy. Where can I get a hurdy-gurdy for $300? You're like,
eBay!
Yeah, exactly. But that's really not a hurdy-gurdy, is it? I mean, it's the nice shape. It looks like one from about 150 feet away, but if you get up close to it and try to play it, that's completely a different thing.
And it's a noise box, we could say.
Right. Exactly. So, because I'm truthful and like to tell people, don't do that. It just makes somebody else money. And you're giving them money, and they're giving you nothing in return. You're just getting a junk box. I mean, you're getting something that looks like it looks like an instrument, but isn't.
So how many souls have you crushed at the Indiana workshop?
I probably personally have crushed at least one for sure.
Only one. I think I crush like 20 a week.
Yeah, well, but I mean, I personally crushed them in terms of probably bad. But at the Hurdy Gurdy workshop, most of the time people show up and we try to fix whatever we can.
This is nice. This is nice because sometimes when someone experienced adjusts the instrument, maybe you can do something. Maybe some days you can do something, but of course.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so it's exactly. So we try to fix it. We'll swap out strings for them. We'll take the tirant off and replace the tirant for them. We'll swap out, make new dogs for them. We have a whole dog making class, like just a class. Yeah, so people can learn how to make their own. So essentially in Indiana, we try to get people playing. I bring loaners. Of the two instruments I bring, I'll loan one out because I need to teach with one. But other people bring loaners so that people can try them out, or at least if they show up and they've got eBay Hurdy Gurdy for $300, that they eventually go, well, the fireplace over there is kind of empty, so we'll just use this in the fireplace, and I'll play this guy's instrument because he brought something nice.
I was thinking about this a little bit leading up to this, and it started to occur to me when people are online or on the Hurdy Gurdy community and they're talking about getting a particular kind of hurdy-gurdy shaped object, and then everyone just is going to jump in and say, that's not a hurdy-gurdy, it's terrible, it's too cheap, or you're paying too much for it. It occurred to me, while I agree with all that many times, there are probably a lot of people out there that really don't plan on trying to play well, though. I wonder how much that plays into it. They just want something that's going to kind of do it, but they're not going to sit there and try to play something they just, some amazing hurdy-gurdy piece.
Yes, Ryan. But remember what we talked about in the other podcast. That specific thing is what gives the idea to the mainstream,
right,
that the Gurdy is a shit box that sounds like dying cats.
Right.
And I think that's why people is very protective, air quotes again, protective, if you want to say it that way, because someone shows up with a HGSO, Hurdy Gurdy shape object, and just says, okay, this is okay for me because I just want to, to make some weird noises, but that's not the point. That's not what a Hurdy Gurdy is, and that's not what we, the community people, are trying to show to the world,
Right.
Yeah,
I see. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I totally agree. Essentially, what it means is that everybody would like to have a starter instrument. I mean, something that's cheap, and which is really where nerdy gurdies have come in. I mean, nerdy gurdies have been like, okay, well, if you want something that's functional and works, here's a nerdy gurdy. It gets you there.
Exactly, and it exists. You can make your own for 350 euros, I think. So why buying a workshop medieval or other instruments like this that this maker is going to charge you what, $800, $1,000 for just a wall hanger, and you have options. It's not that we are against cheap instruments. Okay, I want you guys that are hearing this, I want you to be really, really sure about this. We don't fight against cheap instruments, really. You have options. Yeah.
By the way, lawn care guys showed up, so if you hear any of that's what's happening out there. We don't. I mean, if you can get an inexpensive, good instrument, we absolutely endorse it. It's when you spend good money and you get nothing in return. Mm-hmm. Or if you spend really, really good money, $5,000 or so, and you only later find out that the instrument that you paid $5,000 for is absolute junk. and that, you know, you could have put the $5,000 towards any other far better instrument, but that didn't have laser cutouts in it. You know, just something, you know, just something that, that will play. And if somebody just wants to play and just wants to, you know, make some noise or, you know, have a drone sound, then that's fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And usually those people don't show up on the hurdy-gurdy community and say things like, hey, I really want to be a hurdy-gurdy player. They just say, I want to play this drone sound, but this sounds terrible. Can you make it so it will make a drone sound? Right. And so, you know, those people aren't, I mean, they are within the community. They are the people that we still want to help, but they're not the people that are going to perpetually look for help. I refer to those people as closet hurdy-gurdy players, and not for the reason that most people think. Most people think, you know, oh, I've closeted myself away. I'm a hurdy-gurdy player, but I'm closeted myself away, and nobody's ever going to know. No, it means that they get a hurdy-gurdy. They try it for about a month. They go, this thing sucks. They put it in a closet. And then when somebody says hurdy-gurdy, they go, I've got one of those. And they pull it out of the closet and they go, ah! And then they put it back in the closet again. So, you know, we want to discourage closet hurdy-gurdy players. We want them to be good musicians and good players. And that's really what it comes down to with, you know, the cheaper instruments versus, well, I should say cheap, bad instruments versus expensive instruments. We always try to push somebody, you know, can you save for another 3 months? You know, I know that America is an impulse country. We want to buy everything on impulse. That's why they put things by the grocery stand, so that when you go out, you buy the gum on the way out. You know, they want you to do that, and we are a nation. Oh, it's getting louder out there. We are a nation of impulse buyers.
Was that a closet hurdy-gurdy person?
Yeah, it could be, but it sounds like a closet hurdy-gurdy with a guy playing a bull roar or something out there right now too. But you know, what we want to do is try to get people to not just accept the least that they can get away with. We want them to go a little more, save a little longer, and get the next best instrument that is going to be better for them in the long run. And the other thing about hurdy-gurdies, they really hold their value. I mean,
exactly.
Unless you get a crap one, then you end up selling it for a third or less.
That's the point. You got to get, if you want something that's going to hold a value and be resellable, get a good one. If you don't care, and you just want to be a closet hurdy-gurdy players, then don't bother. Just get the cheapest one you can and crank away, but realize it's gonna be what you pay for. I mean,
exactly. And remember, even if you pay $5,000, it doesn't necessarily mean that you will get a beautiful, nice sounding instrument. So please do your research. Go find the Hurdy Gurdy community on Facebook. Read the FAQ. Ask the experienced players, really do this, because even if you spend a ton of money, it's not granting you a very nice instrument. So,
and you know, one quick thing, being a person who, when I first got involved in hurdy-gurdies, all I knew was a builder in the United States, and that's what I went with, because I didn't think that it was a good idea to spend extra money with shipping and insurance coming from, you know, the United Kingdom or Austria or wherever they may be coming from. But, you know, having then purchased one from Neil Brook in the United Kingdom, it was easy. There was no big deal. You know, I sent him the money and the shipping and the insurance. It didn't add any more. So I'm just saying that to people who might be caught up on the idea of getting something from across the sea. It's not a problem. It works out pretty easy most of the time, I think.
Correct. Yeah. I would say currently you're gonna experience delays.
Yeah.
And you know today is the 11th. Wow, it's September 11th. So it's September 11th here. And in 2020, just in case you're watching this well into the future. You can tell by the dystopian color of my window that's shining in through it from the fires that are turning the ground or the sky orange outside my window. It's going to be a little slower today, just because of the demands on shipping and because of the restrictions and things like that. But be patient; it'll show. You know, it'll get to you. But like you said, it's far better to spend the little extra and get a far better instrument.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, I know Sergio might have another more serious question, but I have one that's not quite so serious. Looking behind you, I happen to see a skull, and I happen to see what looks like a devil.
Yes.
So I'm wondering, what does the devil have to do with Hurdy Gurdies?
Well, what does the devil have to do with Hurdy Gurdies? Now, I wore my Hurdy Gurdy Association shirt, but I just received my devil playing a Hurdy Gurdy t-shirt.
Nice.
2 of them, by the way. One was thinner so that I can wear it when it's hot, and the other one's thicker so I can wear it when it's cold, because it's important. Important. But even Bosch will tell you, or would have told you, that the hurdy-gurdy is an instrument from hell. But of course, if you look at all of the paintings and all the iconography, there's a lot of stuff in there. Bagpipes were from hell, shawms were from hell. I mean, basically, it's just restricted to, harps and maybe some sort of simple guitar like.
No banjos.
Yeah, no, banjos are definitely in hell. Banjos are definitely, yeah. Banjos, there's penny whistles. Penny whistles are probably in hell. I mean, good wood flutes, good Irish wood flutes. Yeah, they're probably not in there, but penny whistles definitely in hell. And everybody who's had to learn how to play recorder in their basic school music program, they think recorders are in hell too.
Melodians?
Yeah. Oh, and melodians are in hell. And what is that? The regale. Have you ever heard of a regale?
No.
Regale is essentially like a, it plays kind of like an early organ would do, just a keyed instrument, but it's reeds, it's double reeds, it's air driven. So essentially it's the Renaissance fart machine. It's just, so that's definitely in hell too.
All right. Well, before we wrap up today, Sergio, do you have anything else you would like to address with Scott? Maybe anything to do with castles or other things?
I don't know, but I have I have two questions, because I would like to always ask these to our guests, because I'm very curious. What's your story? How did you get started with this? This is super interesting for me.
Well, so I got started. I used to do Renaissance fairs, which were a thing in the United States. They still are a thing here in the United States. At least not. They were every year this year. And there's 2 things that happened. One, about 30 years ago, maybe 30 years ago, I saw. And I don't know if it was Brian Tully. I think I might have seen Brian Tully, who's a hurdy-gurdy maker who now lives in France. He's an English gentleman who used to live here in the United States. So he's kind of, been all over the place. But I think I saw him playing at a Renaissance fair in Southern California. And I thought, that's really cool. And that's as far as it went. About 16 years ago, and you need to understand, I'm also a dabbler. I will try all kinds of things. If I want to try some art project, I will just say, you know what? Let's see how to do that. I don't know how to do it, so let me see if I can try how to do that. So I will try some project. I was doing copper embossing because I'd never done it before, and just a bunch of stuff. I don't do engraving. I hadn't done engraving, so I was like, let's try that. So the thing is, I would have some grand idea for the project, and then I would get to a point where I would be like, I don't know how to finish this, so I'm going to put this on the shelf. And then I would do the next thing, and then I would go, I don't know how to finish this, so I'm going to put this on the shelf. So, because sometimes 2 years later, I'd have some great, epiphany and be like, hey, that's the way to finish that. So I'd go pick it up off the shelf. But I had a large shelf full of several shelves full of unfinished items. And so one day I thought, you know what, I'm old enough now, I should be able to finish a damn project. So I picked up, I was at the Renaissance Fair, and I thought, I have not seen anybody playing Hurdy Gurdy here in probably, 18, 15 years. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna buy a Hurdy Gurdy. And it just so happened, even then, it was always a wait. And of course, I'm an American, so I'm impulse buying stuff. But when I started looking, there was a very limited amount of information. Like most everything came from Alden and Callie up at Olympic Music. And there's a lot of information on their site. I didn't even know, the names for Hurdy Gurdies that weren't English. So I had to do a lot of research, and I found a guy in Germany, a guy named Helmut Seibert, and I still recommend him. Helmut Seibert makes a whole bunch of different models and does you'll get, most makers maybe make 3 or 4 models. He's got like 8 or 9. And if you're just like, hey, I want to try something out, he's like, great, let's do that. It's totally nice guy, really nice guy. Builds pretty much bulletproof instruments. They are not, what I tell people is the same, is that they are not Weichselbaumers. They're not Reboyos, but they are super sturdy. They are super playable. And they're easy to understand and easy to play. So there's not a lot difficult with them. So anyhow, and the reason I found when I looked up Hurdy Gurdy every place else, the reason I found it is because I misspelled Hurdy Gurdy intentionally. I spelled it Hurty, and it had been misspelled on the website, so that's how I found him. So I sent him an email and I said, hey, you wouldn't happen to have anything in your shop that I could buy right now, would you? Which I found, by the way, is a trick. Do this if you can get away with it. Sometimes they will. If you want to order an instrument, they specifically think you want a particular type of instrument. But sometimes if you contact a maker and say, do you happen to have, they may actually happen to have. So now I just pissed off a bunch of makers just now by there's going to be a flood of people being, hey, do you happen to have this on the shelf? Right. Anyway, so I asked him if he happened to have an instrument on the shelf, and he said yes. I got it within a few weeks. And then 6 weeks later, I was at the Over the Water Hurdy Gurdy Festival up in Washington, and that's where I met RT, and that's where I met Curtis, and that's where everything got started for me. I mean, I started playing a music instrument because at the time I thought, I want to do something, and I'm going to do a project, and I'm going to finish it. And the problem with music is you never finish. You spend Sergio's like, yes, absolutely. So, it was perfect for me. It's a project I can't put on a shelf because I'm always working on it. So it worked out great.
Lovely. And maybe to finish today's podcast with you, this is another question that I always ask. Who are like your top 3 or top 5, if it's very difficult, players?
Patrick Buffard, number 1.
Sure, number 1.
Yeah. Patrick Buffard is by far my favorite player, but I steal his buzzing technique, which other people will be like, oh, that's so heavy. The buzzing on that thing is so heavy, but I'm like, it's awesome. It rocks. So anyway, but Patrick Buffard, of course, the one of my, and I've never taken a class with him, but I just think he's an ultimately fine and great human being, Gregory Jolivet.
Oh, Greg, yes, sure.
And someday I endeavor to take a class with him. I just haven't. I've never been in Europe when the classes are going on. I would say, oh God, there's such a big long list. Thierry Nuit is another great, amazing player. Thierry Bruno is another great. Thierry Bruno is like a guy who's playing blues and jazz on a hurdy-gurdy while everybody else was still playing trad music. I mean, Terry
awesome.
Pretty awesome. And as far as early music goes, you couldn't beat with a stick Toby Miller's quality of music.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
of course.
Just amazing. She's awesome.
We will have her somewhere, someday, right?
Yes,
Ryan?
yes. She has agreed to be on here. We just have to make it happen.
Awesome.
She's really excessively knowledgeable. I mean, like I love Terry. I love Toby. I just think she's awesome. I just and I wish I could spend more time with her so I could learn more. But there's a new, and I'd have to look up his last name because I only know his. But there's this new player who plays really, really, really incredibly well. He's very close to Patrick in the way that he plays. His first name is Bernard.
Oh yes.
A young guy.
This duo, right, with the accordion.
I haven't seen any. I've only seen one of his videos recently. You can tell it's Bernard, but right away because his elbow is way up in the air as he plays with left elbow. Really, is way up in the air, which makes it really easy for him to play. He's one of these great players with long fingers and not fat stubby things like I got, which makes like octaves a really easy thing. But I just met him last year. He is just an amazing player, a young guy, and it just well worth watching. Yeah, I mean, there's just so many great players. I have to say I'm more in the world of French players. So like Efren, is it Efren or Efron? Efren. Okay. I think I love his music. I think he's amazing. I've only seen limited amounts of him, and I haven't ever met him. I wish I had the opportunity. But he's a
very good friend. He's awesome. You should come here to visit him. Really.
I'll have to do that. I actually truly want to go to Spain again. You're in South, yeah?
I'm in north. Well, not north. Northeast in Catalonia.
Northeast. Oh, Catalonia. Okay. The closest I've been in Spain is the Galicia area.
Of course, Galicia is for those of you who are listening, Galicia is the place of bagpipes and traditional hurdy-gurdies in Spain. So yeah. You're more than invited to come here.
And you're more than invited to come here. We can try all the instruments.
Okay.
And by then I'll probably have more. So. It's a disease. I can't stop. I don't know why. I just, but, and I think one of the reasons is because I really enjoy, not only just repairing the instruments and restoring them, because I really like, the just having my hands on things and working on them and really being able to look at, what some early maker did, but also because I really want others to have that same experience where they can sit down and play whatever they want to do. Play all these instruments I've got just to try them out, because you need to find your sound. And if you don't make it to le son continu, your sound is going to be hard to find on your own. And le son continu, even the luthiers there say, it's really great in the morning, but it's by the time the dirt has kicked up and the heat has kicked up and 15 people have played the instrument, it's not the sound that they want. It's not what they think is the true sound out of their instrument. They're like, it's an approximation, but when you can kind of sit in a controlled room and have the opportunity to play a bunch of different instruments, that's really nice. And so I try to keep that going.
Yeah, excellent. Well, I think that'll probably bring us to the end of our time today. So I thank you so much for being here, Scott. It's really wonderful to talk to you.
I greatly appreciate it. Thank you, and thanks Sergio there for Serge for being around,
Yes.
and putting together this great podcast. This is awesome. I think this is one of those things that people really, the hurdy-gurdy community really needs, and especially now. They need to know that there's people out there that support them and put some faces to names and things like that.
Right. Well, again, it's just wonderful to have you, and maybe we'll do it again we've got so many people lined up, and we're only doing it twice a month. It might be a little while, but hopefully you might want to come back again sometime.
Sure.
Okay.
That would be nice. Yes. It was so cool. Really.
Great. And we're going to be leading out today, or is that leading? We're going to be going out today with the third track that you wanted to play. So that was...
Yeah, it's Patrick Buffard and Gilles Chabnat. Okay. And it's now if you want to hear the combination of a modern instrument, which is the Gilles Syrah, and a traditional instrument, which is Patrick's Nigu, this is the sound. This is the combination of both of them, and they're both in their own right just phenomenal musicians.
All right, good. Well, let's see what we've got here, and I just loved having you both, and we'll be in touch soon.